You know, I keep hearing 2024 isn't going to be that great of a year for gaming, but I don't know, man. I've already played a bunch of great games, and there's still a lot more to come. Here's a look at some of the best-looking new games still set to release this year. And we're off to a good start with a huge update for what no doubt will go down as one of the best games of this decade, Elden Ring. The Shadow of the Erdtree expansion looks to be a sizable update, adding a significant amount of new content with new areas, bosses, weapons, equipment, and plenty of things to discover. Beyond that, though, just the other week, we got a bunch of hands-on impression videos with some creators getting a preview of the expansion. They apparently only got to play a small portion of the update, but from what we've seen already, everyone loves it. These impression videos also gave us a bunch of new information. So for example, we do know that you have to beat Mog and Radon in order to reach the expansion zone. This is no small feat and bound to be an obstacle for the 60-ish% of the player base who have yet to do it. Get your summon signs going soon, by the way. There will of course be new towns and points of interest to explore, full of secrets, hidden treasures, jumping puzzles, and of course, loads of enemies. There's a new separate progression system with these new runes that buff damage and survivability enhancements. This is said to be the largest FromSoft expansion ever, which is crazy considering how absurdly huge Elden Ring already feels. There'll be 10 major story bosses, not including world bosses, a bunch of new large dungeons, just like the base game. New weapons include hand-to-hand, great katanas, throwing weapons, thrusting shields, reverse hand swords, beast claws, light great swords, and perfume bottles. We're also going to be getting a bunch of new sorceries, incantations, ashes of wars, and plenty of other tools and items to play around with. This is going to be more Elden Ring, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I am looking forward to diving back into the game this year. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree launches on June 20th for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. There's a new RTS coming this year. Yes, it is 2024. You have not traveled back in time 14 years. Stormgate is a brand new real-time strategy game developed by Frost Giant Studios, a company made up of a bunch of ex-Blizzard devs, and you can clearly see the lineage. Even just a glance at Stormgate looks a heck of a lot like StarCraft 2, doesn't it? They are not shying away from their inspiration. Stormgate will feature a wide variety of game modes. They've got competitive 1v1 and ongoing campaign, 3-player co-op versus AI, and a few other custom game modes that they're experimenting with. The developers have stated that there will be 3 to 4 races and more than 2 factions. We already know about the first 3. Confirmed races include the Human Resistance, focused on tech, the Infernals, an alien race that invade other planets, and the recently revealed Celestial Armada, a more advanced and spiritual alien race. So literally, we basically have Terran Zerg and Protoss equivalents already. The 4th race is unknown. Maybe it's going to be space orcs or undead. Who knows? We'll see. Each race will have its own playstyle and strengths, as you would expect. There's going to be a lot of rock, paper, scissors here between the different units and combinations. Heroes have been confirmed as well for co-op and 3v3. Hello, Warcraft 3. There's also going to be a wide range of map designs, layouts, settings, and locations. And there are 2 resources in Stormgate, one similar to StarCraft's minerals, and then a separate tech resource, which is going to be its own thing. Apparently not just Vespian gas. Honestly, when I look at gameplay of this thing, it almost feels like I'm having a crazy fever dream where my brain took StarCraft 2, Dota 2, and Warcraft and kind of mashed them all together. Either way, I hope this is good. As a boomer RTS fan, I would love for a genre revival. Stormgate is coming to PC via Steam on July 30th. Before we continue with the list, a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Star Wars Hunters, a new free-to-play third-person PvP arena game where you'll compete with others in intense 4 vs 4 matches, playing as various Star Wars characters on battlefields inspired by iconic locations from across the Star Wars galaxy. The game is set after the fall of the Galactic Empire. You'll choose from a diverse cast of new characters, including daring bounty hunters, heroes of the Rebellion, and even an Imperial Stormtrooper. Each battlefield evokes iconic Star Wars locales such as the Ewok Village, the Dune Sea Outpost on Tatooine, and even the Death Star, with every area including 4 playable game modes: Squad Brawl, Dynamic Control, Power Control, and Trophy Case. There's a class system with damage support and tanking options. On top of that, you'll be able to customize each hunter by collecting and equipping them with unique costumes, animations, and weapon appearances. Star Wars Hunters released on Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android on June the 4th. To learn more, check out the link below or scan the QR code on screen now. All right, next up on our list, we have got Black Myth Wukong. First revealed back in August 2020, this is a narrative-focused, single-player, Soulsborne-inspired inspired action RPG. The game tells the tale of Sun Wukong on his pilgrimage through Central Asia in a world obviously full of Chinese mythology. They say that the game features Soulsborne inspired action combat with the expected variety of light and heavy attacks, defensive options like block, dodge, and parry. It's also got a stance system with different stances altering your attacks, giving you access to new moves. Combat also focuses on Sun Wukong's powerful transforming staff, so the staff can be tossed like a boomerang. It can be extended forward to reach enemies at a distance. You can do jump attacks, sweep attacks, charge attacks. You can plant the staff in the ground, elevating yourself high above enemies. There are even cool abilities like the fire ring, the split shadow, and a whirlwind attack. We've seen lots of different interesting enemy designs. There's the usual mix of archetypes like large groups of weaker enemies, some mid-tier challenging enemies, and some more elite boss equivalents. There are large-scale boss battles as you would expect from any Soulsborne inspired game. Bosses with a variety of attack patterns for you to memorize. You'll go through several phases where they might transform. We've seen things like large werewolves, this white Chinese dragon, lizard snake hybrid, giant beetles, and ogres. Looks like it's going to be a linear romp as well. You'll be moving through rather guided levels, going through a pretty straightforward path and story campaign, entering combat arenas, while occasionally coming across boss battles. The game looks interesting. We will see how it all stacks up. Black Myth Wukong is coming to PC and PlayStation on August 19th, Xbox at a later date. Star Wars Outlaws is billed as the first ever open world Star Wars game, which is that true? I played SOTOR a lot, although I guess that wasn't technically open world because there were loading screens. What about Star Wars Galaxies? Was that not? Whatever. Either way, Outlaws is set between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Playing as Kay Vess, an emerging scoundrel seeking freedom and the means to start a new life, along with her companion Nix, because what is a new Star Wars character without their cute, silly comedy relief of a sidekick? We're going to visit distinct planets, exploring its open world areas full of bustling cities, cantinas, and all sorts of points of interest, as well as enemy camps to clear. I love it. I mean, this is a Ubisoft game after all. You got to have a camp of enemies. You go in, you clear it, you raise the flag or whatever, and then you move on to the next one. Each planet is going to bring its own unique adventures, its own main inside story quest, challenges, NPCs to discover, and rewards for you to collect. You can take enemies head on with your blaster and other offensive tools, or stay hidden, sneaking around and eliminating enemies from stealth. Both playstyles will be supported. You'll take on high-risk, high-reward missions from the galaxy's crime syndicates as you steal valuable goods, infiltrate secret locations, and try to outwit your enemies. You can pilot your ship as well, the Trailblazer, where you'll engage in space battle dogfights against the Empire and other foes. There has been some hands-on impressions of this game. I recently saw Skillup did a video. He got to play it and said he thought it was pretty good. I mean, I think the game looks nice, really, and apparently it runs well, going at 60 FPS with 4K resolution. The gameplay, from what he said as well, is decent. It feels like a well-lived-in Star Wars world. That said, the game has been getting a lot of heat pretty much from the jump, although I do think it looks good from what we've seen. It could be good anyways. I mean, I don't mind going through the typical Ubisoft checklist of clearing open world maps, and the Star Wars universe is a cool setting. We'll of course see how it comes together, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it comes out. Ubisoft, while deserved, does get a lot of hate for pretty much anything that they release ever, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, right? Star Wars Outlaws is coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox on August 30th. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 looks to be the video game embodiment of driving a war tank through a field of watermelons. Space Marines, after all, they mess things up, and if this game even partially delivers on what we've seen from its trailers, I will be over the moon. So the sales pitch for this one says you will embody the superhuman skill and brutality of a Space Marine, unleash deadly abilities and devastating weaponry to obliterate the relentless Tyranid swarms, defend the Imperium in spectacular third-person action. I played the original Space Marine way back when, some 10 or 15 years ago, however long it was, and while the game has not aged super gracefully, I do recall having a blast back when it first came out. It was just a fun romp, right? Space Marine 2 is going to feature a full story campaign as you move through linear levels, tearing up hordes of enemies. From the gameplay trailers, we have seen easily hundreds of enemies swarming on screen at once. It looks chaotic and super fun. You can play solo or with up to 2 friends in seamless 3-player co-op. There's a PvE campaign, of course, that features 6 classes to choose from: Tactical, Assault, Vanguard, Bulwark, Sniper, and Heavy. Each of these come with their own unique skills and cosmetics you can unlock. There's also competitive multiplayer multiplayer 6 vs 6 PvP matches. Bro, I am pumped. I so wish more games had what is kind of tossed aside as tacked on multiplayer modes, but I love when these like campaign games or these linear story progression games also get multiplayer modes that you can mess around with. We did recently, just a couple days ago, get a new trailer. It's kind of more of the same. They show crazy amounts of enemies on screen. They show a ton of different attacks, melee executions. There was a bit of a highlight of the co-op gameplay. Frankly, we've not seen a ton of this game, but from what little we have seen and from me having played the original, I am hopeful. We'll see. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 launches on September 9th, coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Obsidian is back once again with another first-person narrative-driven RPG. This time around, though, they're making a fantasy game. Avowed is set in the same universe as Pillars of Eternity. Players control an envoy from the Aedir Empire who has been sent to Eora's living lands to investigate a mysterious plague. So the whole game takes place on one large island. This island will have many different environments, landscapes, and ecosystems with all of its inhabitants, both friendly and foe. You will play as either a human or elf. You're able to customize your appearance, personality, and starting playstyle, although you will not be locked into a class or style. Instead, you're giving options of choosing between a variety of skills and abilities and weapons to use in combat. You can mix and match swords, spells, guns, and shields however you like. You'll have access to grimoires for spells that trap, freeze, or burn enemies. You can then bash them with your shield and pull out your bow, finishing them off from a distance if you like. Lots of mixing and matching here, similar to Skyrim, evidently. You'll enlist the aid of companions to fight alongside you with their own unique personalities and abilities. Companions will also react to your choices that you make on your adventures. And Obsidian has confirmed on multiple occasions that Avowed's narrative and side stories will be driven by player choice. Players will engage in dialogue with NPCs, where they will be faced with making pivotal decisions that affect each story's direction and have multiple endings. I've seen a lot of joking that Avowed looks like Skyrim from Wish, but I am hoping Obsidian nails it and can deliver something that truly feels uniquely their own. Avowed is coming to PC and Xbox on November 12th. So those are what I would consider the main games on my list, like the best looking new games that I'm looking forward to coming in 2024, but there are plenty more I would like to bring up. First, we've got the first Descendant, a third-person shared world looter shooter. You've got a bunch of unique classes to pick from, a semi-open world to explore, there's missions to grind, bosses to fight, all of this in service of powering up and collecting cool loot. Basically, this appears to be Nexon's take on Warframe with a little bit of Destiny thrown in. I spent quite a lot of time with some early beta test, and there are things about this game that I liked. I think generally the gameplay is quite satisfying. It feels good to shoot and use your class abilities. Movement was frankly really good, especially classes like Bunny. You zip around the map at crazy high speeds, pulsating lightning. It's really cool. In general, I think their class design is well done. There's some interesting variety and unique playstyles and like class combinations that I've not even seen in other loot games and other RPGs. Really well done. Boss battles were a highlight as well, and I think generally like the setting, the world, and the environment look cool, but there was also quite a few negatives. I thought the world felt stiff and lifeless. It's like if you took a Destiny overworld and then stripped it of everything but the terrain. Cool setting, but pretty bland and dead feeling. Mission design and pacing was also boring, tons of standing around and lots of downtime, and the game just had a load of rough edges, bad animation, sounds, voice acting, the list goes on. Now, that was beta though. Ideally, they've ironed a lot of that out, and it's going to be better and more fleshed out at release, but keep in mind, as a live service looter game from Nexon, progression system will be, without question, very heavily monetized. We expect a price tag to be on unlocking characters, weapons, cosmetics, and speeding up the crazy long build times and everything in between. This game is almost certainly going to be pay to win. I assume it'll be like Warframe, but much worse. Nexon is known for having some of the most aggressive microtransactions in the whole industry, maybe falling short of the worst offending mobile games. They're right up there with them, though. It's on the list because, well, I have a mental illness when it comes to live service, MMO lights, looter shooters, open world, shared world games. I love them, even the bad ones. This one seems like it could be decent, but likely very pay to win. The first Descendant is coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox on July 2nd. The long-awaited sequel to Stalker is coming out this year. In Heart of Chernobyl, you play as the lone Stalker, exploring a seamless open world in 64 square kilometers of radioactive zone with a variety of environments and many paths to choose from in a highly branching story. Features include unique gameplay built on a blend of FPS, horror, and immersive sim, a non-linear story with a variety variety of paths that lead to several different endings, survival mechanics like hunger, sleeping, bleeding, radiation effects. There's a dynamic day-night cycle and weather, mod support, and a multiplayer mode that is said to be coming shortly after the game releases as a free update. A lot of people looking forward to this. I played the original Stalker, but only briefly, but nevertheless, I've heard nothing but good things. People rave about that game. Stalker 2 is coming to PC and Xbox on September 5th. The first major expansion for Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred, will be launching this year. This introduces the new class Spiritborn, an apex predator of the jungle who battles with styles and mystical synergies. We don't know too much about it, but we will be getting a gameplay livestream taking place very soon on July the 18th. We're getting a brand new region full of all the expected things. This is a dense jungle area. It will have points of interest, towns, dungeons, strongholds, open world events, and of course hordes of new enemies to engage with. There are mercenaries, companions that you can recruit to fight alongside you, helping in combat with unique abilities. So far we've seen what look to be a tank, archer, mage, and berserker. There's also going to be a brand new PvE co-op endgame activity, this multifaceted dungeon with powerful challenges. First of its kind to Diablo, this dungeon is said to require players to team up. So yes, a group dungeon, maybe even a small scale raid. We'll see what it ends up being. And the expansion will also introduce a ton of free base game updates like pets and new skills for each class, added paragon boards and legendary glyphs, as well as new dungeon types and activities. Diablo 4's Vessel of Hatred expansion launches on October 8th, coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. The classic 2001 horror game Silent Hill 2 is getting a fresh remake this year. The remake will feature completely overhauled graphics and sound system, larger environments as you explore locations and buildings that were once inaccessible or even newly added for the remake. You can enjoy the original Acclaim story while you experience the town of Silent Hill with an expanded map. The game is now also over the shoulder. The remake moves from the original fixed camera viewpoints to an over the shoulder perspective, and familiar weapons like the steel pipe and handgun make a return, but now with an updated combat system. You can avoid attacks with carefully timed dodges, aim down sights, and more, making monster encounters more engaging and nerve-wracking than ever. The Silent Hill 2 remake will be launching on October 8th, coming to PC and PlayStation. New World has a big update called Aeternum. This brings some new content, features, quality of life, and the game is finally coming to consoles. With Aeternum, New World will be getting a new, what they are saying, a more cinematic intro experience. Haven't they done this before? Quest flow from 1 to 65 has been improved. Haven't they done that before? New in-game cinematics, revamped story dialogue, character archetypes, the first 10-player raid, that's cool. A first full PvP open world zone, endgame solo trials, that is cool. There's a new gear score increase, a new spider enemy, a brand new boss. Players can now swim, that only took 3 years, and there is going to be a brand new bear mount. So yes, there's some updates here, but the PC player base has been a bit of an uproar, kind of up in arms over this, hoping for a whole lot more than what they ended up announcing. Many feel like it's just some small quality of life stuff and even a bit of a cash grab console release. Now, I don't necessarily harbor those feelings towards the game, but I'm also not as invested in New World as many of the active player base. I will say that the announcement event that they hosted at Summer Games Fest was pretty awkward. The crowd was cheering out of their minds at the devs just sort of explaining the basics of the game as if it were launching for the very first time. Kind of a weird showcase, but most of these typically are kind of awkward feeling. I will also add that despite the uproar online, the PC player base, according to SteamDB, shows that the daily peak count has pretty much stayed the same, so make of that what you will. Everyone was really upset, but not upset enough to stop playing, or maybe a lot of the people who were expressing their discontent were not active players. That's probably more likely what it is. Anyway, New World Aeternum is coming to PC and for the first time consoles on October 15th, and we'll see what happens to the game after that. Hey, don't forget, they got a Lord of the Rings game they're working on. They can't be putting too much time into New World, right? Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is an upcoming first-person action-adventure game published by Bethesda Softworks. It's going to feature an original narrative that draws from the film series as well as Indy's appearances in other media. Playing as Indiana Jones himself, you will navigate a mix of linear, story-sensitive areas and wider exploratory landscapes. Primarily played from the first-person perspective with his good old-fashioned whip. There's also going to be some third-person used for contextual areas like various environmental interactions. Combat can either be directly engaged with or circumvented entirely through the use of stealth mechanics. And Indy's signature whip can be used both as a weapon or a means of traversal across obstacles and solving puzzles, uncovering alternate paths and obscured collectibles. The game spans numerous real-world locales such as Rome, Thailand, Egypt, and the Himalayas. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is set for release on all platforms in 2024. The exact date is to be announced. And then we've got Kingmakers. Go back in time to a war-torn medieval era with a vast arsenal of modern-day weapons, changing the course of history. You are playing in a medieval setting, but you are using modern-day weaponry. It looks absolutely ridiculous. Assault rifles, shotguns, grenade launchers, armored SUVs, bikes, attack helos, airstrikes, and many more. It just looks like silly fun, honestly. You can play with up to 3 friends, leading your armies alongside each other, or join in conquest in online co-op mode. To quote here, they say seamlessly switch between combat and issuing orders at any time. While the system is easy to learn and simple to use, the many strategic possibilities exist. It just looks like silly, dumb fun. Really interesting game and concept. Kingmakers is coming to PC sometime in 2024. So there are a bunch of other games that I want to at least briefly mention here. I would not want to neglect them, but they're not the ones I'm most excited for. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. This is a vampire role-playing game. People have been waiting for this forever. It's supposed to be coming out this year. The release date is to be determined, however, so might get pushed out. And also, this game has had a bit of a rough development. We've heard of a lot of development woes, so we'll see what ends up coming of it, but hoping for the best here for the people excited for this one. Blue Protocol, the anime MMORPG, is also supposed to come out this year, although I think that's going to largely depend on what Amazon has planned. Remember, they are publishing Throne and Liberty, another MMO, and it seems like they're prioritizing that first, although that one still doesn't even have a release date. Frostpunk 2, the city management survival game, is really anticipated. The first game, super well liked. It's got a 9 out of 10 on Steam with over 85,000 reviews. People love this game. The sequel looks to be just adding more and more depth. Concord, PlayStation's recently revealed game that people at first thought was a Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff with like a story-based campaign, maybe co-op. Well, that turned out to be a hero shooter, and everyone was scratching their head once that got revealed. Reception to this reveal was not too great. We'll see how it plays though. That comes out on August 23rd. God of War Ragnarok is coming to PC. The game is great. We already know this. Reviews are out there. Hopefully the PC port is done well. This launches on September 19th. Assassin's Creed Shadows is Assassin's Creed in feudal Japan. It's got different playable main characters apparently that you can choose from, which is interesting. It also seems to have a slower pace of combat. Japan is a 6 setting. Hope it's fun. We're expecting more Assassin's Creed, but with a Japan twist. That launches on November 15th. And then we've also got Brighter Shores, a new MMO from RuneScape creator Andrew Gower. This thing actually has a load of potential, and while it may seem strange with like its small instance zones and the tile-based structure, I'm actually quite interested in checking this thing out. I mean, it's the guy who made RuneScape, and people adore RuneScape even to this day. And then I wanted to bring up Dune Awakening, the open world survival sandbox MMO developed by Funcom. I'm actually really anticipating this. I hope they deliver. It's like Conan Exiles, but Dune themed and hopefully a lot better. But we actually are not thinking it's coming out in 2024 anymore. As we get closer towards the middle portion and the third quarter of the year, it's seeming less and less likely that they're actually going to release in 2024. And with that, we wrap up this video checking out that rather exhaustive look at some of the best looking new games still planned and coming in 2024. Hopefully you found some things that you're interested in, some new stuff that you might want to check out, and something to look forward to. I want to thank again Star Wars Hunters for sponsoring this video. If you want to learn more and check out the game for yourself, just use my link below. And also thank all of you for watching. As always, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy.